Alright, hi everyone, welcome back to the channel, and today we'll be doing a review on this Vespa GTS 150. I have owned it for about 2 years now and I've clocked about 15,000 kilometers on it. So let's hop right into it. Alright, so here's the story of how I got my Vespa GTS 150. So it was in 2021, 2 years back. I saw this listing and I immediately went down and checked it out. Turns out it has fairly low mileage. Back then it had about 14,000 kilometers on it. And I decided that, you know what, this is my first bike. I want something that's fairly new so that I don't have to deal with a bunch of engine issues that you get when the engine gets up in the mileage. So something low mileage, something that's fairly new. Second hand is always a good option to go because it lowers the cost quite a bit. So yes, that's how I ended up with these as my first bike, and since then I've held onto it. I have had other bikes along the way that came along, but this has always been around, and I truly have a great time owning this Vespa. I think it's super practical and it's one of my favorite recommendations whenever I have friends who pass their 2B. If they ask me what kind of motorbike they can consider, I think getting a Vespa is so practical, especially for our city living in Singapore, which I'll share a bit more later on. So what do I like most about this Vespa is definitely the styling of the bike. I think styling and practicality are two key reasons why I eventually settled for this because first, some of the practical stuff includes the front hook. The front hook, which I noticed myself using very often. I could hang my school bag, my backpack. The front glove, I store my cash card and some spare cash. The box, I can fit a backpack in there, a spare helmet. Although the underseat storage is a little small because I know from previous models that Vespas used to be able to fit in even a half face or full face helmet, but right now I'm not sure this model I can't fit in any sort of helmet unless it's one of those half helmet which is bent. So I'm not able to fit in any helmet in there. But two of the practical features that comes with Vespa is the helmet lock, which is accessible under seat. So I find myself using them whenever I'm leaving my bike for quite a while. I could just secure the helmets onto the helmet lock. So I've also been getting quite pretty decent fuel consumption. On a full tank, I usually clock in about 220 kilometers to 250. That equates to about 40 kilometers per liter on average, and it's been pretty consistent since the first day I've owned it. So I actually did take this bike up on a trip to Malacca, which is about 500 kilometers to and fro. It was a day trip, I remember, and the towing capabilities of this bike, it's pretty decent. All right, not the best. I think a key point that it's great at is its ability to carry items, right? Like ferrying goods is one of definitely its strong points, but not so great on speed and also handling of the crosswinds, right? Because it's heavy, I actually felt that it suffers quite a bit in terms of the high-end speed. So I was able to cruise comfortably at around 90 kilometers per hour. That's about it. Any faster, it will be pretty dangerous. And the engine, I could feel that it was screaming. So I didn't want to push it any further. We took about 5 hours. I remember it took us about 5 hours. We crossed the checkpoint at about 6 a.m. and only got there at about 11:30, just in time for lunch. But yeah, definitely doable. I know a few friends who actually take their Vespas up around the world. So yeah, its touring capabilities is definitely doable, but just don't expect it to be anywhere near as fast as the proper touring bikes. Some of the modifications that came or I did to this bike is the front rack. The front rack right over there, I have had no use of it besides it being an aesthetic thing. I think it does add to the look. The whole countryside look, I suppose. People can put picnic baskets. I know there's a front clamp that allows you to clamp the rack down, and you can put like like I said, picnic basket or even a pack of beer. Next would be the front windshield. Right, this windshield has served me tremendously well. It diverts the wind up to around my neck area, so the wind flows by. It prevents the wind from hitting my chest, which drastically helps to reduce the riding fatigue on long distances. And also one of the important modifications that I encourage Vespa GTS owners to do is to have a pillion foot peg extender. So the pillion foot peg extender extends the pillion foot peg out because originally the pegs are kind of in, and with this bodywork that protrudes out here, I tend to find like pillions having to wrap their legs around the body of the Vespa just to rest their legs on the foot peg. So it's one of the great modifications that I highly recommend. In terms of maintenance and reliability, I have had no issue with it. Ever since taking over from 2 years, I have just did regular servicing for every 3,000 kilometers. The usual engine oil, oil filter, and even the gear oil. In my ownership, I also have just changed the front wheel. Yeah, that's about it. Maintenance and reliability has been superb. A typical engine oil change will cost me about 1.4 liters of engine oil, so it range about 30 to 40 depending if there's an oil filter or not. The next one is the seat height. I think the seat height is pretty high for in terms of the average bike height. Given my height, I am about 180. I do need to stand on my tippy toes whenever I come to a stop. If not, I lean on one side, and that's why I can flat foot on one side and lift my other foot up on the floorboard. It's high, it's pretty high on the seat height as well as its weight. The weight of it is pretty heavy. It's quite heavy to handle. So I think you gotta be prepared to, be careful when you're moving. Because of its steel body, I think it does weigh significantly heavier than most of the other bikes. So in conclusion, I recommend this scooter for any sort of rider really. It's a beautiful scooter, great practicality, superb on its fuel consumption, great city bike, especially for a city like Singapore. I'm able to weave through traffic, as well as just ferry tons and tons of stuff. Yeah, so anyone looking for a very practical bike with a great look, do consider the Vespa GTS. I think you can't really go too wrong with it. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next one.